During the 1600s, between the end of the Renaissance and the start of the Enlightenment, Europe lived through an era known as the Age of Reason. This was a period that saw widespread advances in the arts and sciences. Artists such as Caravaggio, Rembrandt, and Van Dyck flourished across the continent. Likewise, scientists such as Newton, Huygens, and Pascal continued the scientific revolution instigated during the Renaissance by Galileo. Philosophy advanced through rationalists such as Descartes and Spinoza, as well as empiricists such as John Locke, whose ideas would later play a formative role in the American Constitution. At the same time, society began to investigate its own workings. Political theory took on a more profound aspect with Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes. Ideas on economics emerged from such disparate figures as the maverick Englishman Sir William Petty and the French mercantilists who advised Louis XIV, the Sun King, on how to run France. Yet this was an age of unreason, almost as much as it was an age of reason. The above accomplishments took place against a background of extreme political turbulence and irrational behaviour on a continental scale. These took the form of internal conflicts and international wars, as well as more localized manifestations, such as outbreaks of witchcraft and the sadistic measures taken against the women deemed responsible. In just the length of a biblical lifetime, 70 years and 10, the Puritan Pilgrim Fathers who had emigrated to the New World in order to practice their religion in freedom underwent an outbreak of mass hysteria. The result was the notorious Salem witch trials, and by now the land of liberty was also beginning to participate in another form of unreason, the transatlantic slave trade. These are far from being the only major anomalies of the era, which might justifiably be called the Age of Reason and Unreason. Indeed, the Age of Reason itself was born in Europe at the same time as the greatest outbreak of mass violence yet witnessed on that continent. This was the 30 Years' War, a brutal conflict which would devastate Central Europe to an extent that would not be seen until the outbreak of the two world wars some 3 centuries later. Yet out of this very same war came the Peace of Westphalia, a treaty which formulated the idea of the independent nation-state, a concept that remains a cornerstone of international politics to this day. The 30 Years' War was followed by the English Civil War, which was the beginning of the end for the divine right of kings, at least in Britain. It was such turbulence that prompted Hobbes to write his Leviathan. Indeed, many of the greatest works and advances of the Age of Reason were to be inspired, or provoked, by the unreason that gripped Europe.